host for this episode of Dynamic Words, a brand new series brought to you by the Dynamic Works Institute. So we've all been inspired by countless dynamic individuals we've encountered, and Dynamic Words is our way of bringing these incredible voices to the forefront. This podcast is more than just a series. It's a platform for thought leaders, change makers, and innovators to share a little bit about themselves, their career path, and their leadership style. And I'm thrilled you've decided to join us. I'm excited to announce that Alan Doderline is our guest today. Alan is the executive director of the Berwyn Township Community Mental Health Board. His journey is a testament to the power of the word pause. And that's today's dynamic word. And I cannot wait for Alan to share with us his insights and experiences with the word pause. So get ready to be inspired, challenged, and motivated as we uncover the power of words in leadership and in life. So let's dig in. Hi, Alan. How are you today?
Hi there. I am very well and glad to be with you. Thank you.
I am thrilled to have you here. It's been a new relationship between you and I, but you really struck me as a really inspirational individual, and I thought it'd be fun to chat with you today for our audience. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I'm curious about your background.
Sure. Well, I am, as you said, the executive director of a community mental health board for the township of Berwyn. It is a township of about 60,000 people just outside of Chicago. And what that means is I facilitate the grant making of a volunteer board of residents of that township of Berwyn. And we support agencies in the mental health, the developmental disability, and the substance use disorder spaces. And these community mental health boards in the state of Illinois, where this is located, are really an outgrowth of the Community Mental Health Act of 1964. And they put some of uh, the motivation and the expertise behind mental health and other behavioral health services into the hands of the community. So people who really know what's happening on the ground, who are themselves affected by mental health issues, have a role and a stake in their own treatment. And something I'm very proud to be part of, having previous to my time with the Berwyn Mental Health Board, led the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, which is a national mental health advocacy, education, and support organization. So, all told, with 10 years at the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, and then these past 5 and counting with the Berwyn Community Mental Health Board, I've been in the mental health space for about 15 years. But it's been not as a clinician, but as an organizational leader and a facilitator of community objectives, working for a board. I'll just briefly add that prior to these past 15 years in mental health, I worked in actually the arts and culture sector, which has a lot of overlap. I mean, there are so many creative people who are affected by mental health conditions, and so the transition wasn't maybe as abrupt as I had thought it would be. But I was in theater, museums, music organizations, and finally, a wonderful community education and arts organizations. So my background is sort of 2 chapters so far, arts and culture leadership, and then mental health leadership. And that brought me to you today.
I am fascinated by that. I don't meet many people that have similar backgrounds as mine, coming from the arts community, music community, and the crosswalk. I love the advocacy work. I love the fact that you said the individuals that are most common with what you're dealing with are the voices that you hear every day to guide you. I think that's just incredible. I'm so curious and for our viewers, I provide these lists of words. And the last couple guests I've had have picked their own, and I love this. pause. Tell me why you picked it, and also how do you define it?
Sure, sure. Well, I was interested in your reaction to the word pause because I looked at this list that you share, and it's great, and they're all ones that I might pick, and they are dynamic as you would expect, and so I thought, ooh, I'm not picking maybe a word with a lot of pizzazz, but I thought about it and I thought about some of the other ideas and words that were coming to me. They were things like transparency, authenticity, empathy. And I started thinking about what I've encountered as a leader in the workplace across several organizations. And I think there can be a tendency to get caught by a kind of momentum that exists within your workplace, and that can be very positive. It can also be not so positive. I think you can, in some ways, maybe be reactive rather than planful, proactive, etc. If you don't have a bit of space to think about what your fundamental intention is with what you're doing, to connect with what you bring authentically to that moment and to the human on the other side of the interaction or humans. I think that I'll use myself as an example. I mean, I'll get that email or that maybe little side eye in a meeting, and I'll think, hey, what the heck? What's going on? I'm mad, or I'm frustrated, or that's wrong, or, whatever it might be. Not that I'm a horribly negative person, but we all have those moments. And I think what really helps, and what I hope that I can foster in the workplaces that I'm fortunate to be in, is a moment where you take a pause and you reflect and you connect with both your own humanity and integrity, but then also allow a space for your colleague or colleagues' humanity and integrity. What are we all there for? What's the true north? What's the reason that we're doing this? And how can I maybe disconnect from my ego, from my narrative about, what might be behind the words in an email or what have you, and really get down to the heart of the matter. I think that pause is really essential, and I think with all the noise and activity that we encounter in so many realms, but certainly the workplace, that pause is one we don't allow ourselves often enough. So that's where I came with that word.
I think that's really fascinating because I know a lot of people that say count to 10 before you respond, but the difference is you have this inclusive circle about pause where you're not just counting to 10 so I don't blow up. You're counting to 10 because you're trying to full circle this and understand it. As you came up in business and as you came up with your careers, when or can you share with me a time when pause was critical to your career path?
Oh, sure. I mean, this is something that I think I have used to the greatest effect in both um, you know, team building, traditional team building that you have with a staff that you manage. But then also, I have been a person who reports to a board of directors. So, anywhere from 8 to 25 people are my boss. And that's a lot of bosses. And hopefully you have structures where it's, mainly the chair or an executive committee. But you are encountered with a diversity of viewpoints. You are maybe caught up in some of the really deeply held beliefs and stakes that people have with the cause. I've been in nonprofit, arts, advocacy. People are there for deeply personal, deeply important reasons, and the stakes are high. And I think that pause when maybe you have to say no to someone, Maybe you have to say, no, that's not the best idea as I see it from my vantage point, to a volunteer board member
Yeah.
who's your boss. And that takes bravery. That takes humility because they also can say, well, no, no, they can fight for their position. And I think that that pause has consistently helped in navigating things and really at the end of the day, making the best decision for the organization, but also allowing everyone their humanity, allowing everyone to feel like they win. Not to, it's so problematic to use like battlefield metaphors, but I'm still going to use one because it's the only one I can think of right now. You might not win the battle, but you win the war, the campaign. I think that looking at the longer term, looking at the whole of where you're going. No, everything didn't go exactly like I wanted, but I could pause, I could step back, and I could see I can get to where I want to go, and maybe we'll take a different route than I thought, but one that'll work for the group. So
Yeah,
that it's been really important.
that's great. There's a lot of people that are watching this podcast and they're at that stage of their life that they're looking to become a leader in their organization. So when we talk about the toolkit that leaders assemble during their journey, why is pause a tool they need to have in that toolkit?
Okay, well, I've talked about sort of how it fits ideologically, philosophically, and also practically. I mean, it can literally be, oh, your key colleague is you know saying something completely different than they said when you rehearsed for the presentation, and you've got to deal with that, and rather than reacting, you pause, you take a moment, and you figure out what might be going on. There's sort of that application that's work related. I think there's also a personal pause. People talk about pause and count to 10. People talk about, hey, don't work straight through for 10, 11 hours. Take a break, make sure you eat lunch, whatever it might be. I think that there's an important distinction between pause and stop.
Mm.
I think that there can be a way that we think, okay, if things aren't happening as I plan for them to, as I want them to, as I expect them to, it's done, it's over. And maybe that happens in our professional journeys. We think, oh, I've got to sort of completely pivot, change. What I've been doing stops. And no, I think it's actually a pause. I took everything that I learned across my career as an artist and then an arts administrator, it all came to play in my role as an advocate and a leader in the mental health space. When I am making grants to community agencies and dealing with, some issues that are really intense and heavy and important, all of that I have been through comes. And if I pause, if I collect, if I take all of that and deploy it where I am now, I'm so much more powerful, so much more interesting, hopefully. I think that is absolutely a tool. And then the pause can also be a moment to think, is this right? you know I mean, you can always make a new choice. So if your career and your work as a leader maybe has some twists and turns, that's okay. But I think the pause and escaping from the noise, escaping from all of the hubbub around you, I think that can help you maybe avoid some wrong turns along the way. I don't think we pause enough. I really don't.
Well, I'm for sure going to be pausing today after talking to you. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Dynamic Words. It's been an absolute pleasure to explore the impactful stories shared by Alan today. And Alan, thank you for your time and insight. As we wrap up our conversation, we hope you leave feeling inspired and empowered by today's dynamic word, pause. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with friends and colleagues who might find it just as inspiring. And don't forget to subscribe to the series for more compelling discussions with outstanding leaders. Until next time, keep embracing the power of words. This is Terry Lyston from Dynamic Works Institute, signing off from Dynamic Words. Stay dynamic and stay inspired.